everyone, this is RadTechShoe and I have another Battleborn character review episode for you. And in this episode we're going to be looking at Phoebe. We're going to be looking at LLC's elegant yet deadly fencer. We're going to be looking at her skill setup, her background, her in-game background lore, her Helix loadout, her equipment loadout, and then I'm going to give you tips and tricks that I have found to use Phoebe to really tear up your opponents and shred them to pieces on the battlefield. So let's get right into her skill setup. Her first skill is Phase Gate. After a brief charging period, roughly like a quarter of a second, Phoebe teleports to a target location, releasing the charge and then dealing 134 damage to nearby enemies. So it's not an individual attack, it deals energy around her when she arrives at her target destination. So it's good for damaging multiple small enemies. And once we get into the Helix loadout, we'll see how we can augment Phase Gate to be really problematic for our opponents. Her second skill, Blade Rush. Phoebe just throws the four swords behind her. She throws all four of them forward, and they deal 34 damage each on contact. That's it. But just like Phase Gate, once we get into the Helix loadout, we're going to augment Blade Rush to make it so that it is actually considerably dangerous and much more practical than just its natural default damage and use. Her ultimate ability is Blade Cascade. Phoebe spins around and conjures up this little circle, and inside this circle for 5 seconds, a bunch of rapiers will fall and deal 167 damage to all the opponents in there. This is great for wiping out small little groups of adds, or if you come up behind enemies, you can activate Blade Cascade, and you'll see me do that in this video where I'm behind two opponents, I activate Blade Cascade, and then they just die. It's very good to use in combo right after you Phase Gate. So Phase Gate, then activate Blade Cascade, and then retreat and let Blade Cascade kill whatever is still there that's left in the area of, the width, the radius of the blades. So it's fairly useful. Now her skills are kind of okay. None of them are really overpowered right off the bat, but however, it's her melee abilities that I think make Phoebe real good. Her basic default melees are pretty much, she does a series of melee attacks, and then it's endless. Just like Galilea or Wrath, if you hold down R2, she'll just keep stabbing. However, notice that they are not side swipes like Wrath or Galilea. They are straightforward lunges, they are straightforward stabs or jabs, however you want to term it. So they're not swiping, they're not side swiping abilities. So there's an increased chance of missing if your opponent's not perfectly centered. But still, I'm going to show you a way to pretty much negate that flaw with Phoebe, and we're just gonna continue right along into her L2 ability, which is called True Strike. True Strike is actually fairly good. At any point during her melee abilities, you can activate True Strike. What Phoebe does is she does a lunging attack. Forward, backwards, left, or right. Phoebe not only lunges and attacks in that direction, but she can also move in that direction. So if you're using your melees and your opponent's trying to retreat or move away from you, you can use True Strike at any point during that combo, during your basic melee combo, and attack and try and follow your opponent so that you can stay on them and keep dealing damage. It's very useful. You'll see me do it a lot in this video. You'll see me use True Strike left and right, and it's fairly good. Her melee and her basic default melee, her R2 and her L2s, those are what make Phoebe useful, and that's what I focus on in this video, not so much her skills. I'm not saying her skills are trash, but they're not what I preferred to focus on when I played with Phoebe. And now that we've had a look at her skills, we're going to go into her in-game backstory and lore that you can unlock by accomplishing various challenges within the game. So the first thing I'd like to go over with her background lore is her full name. Her full name is Phoebe Elizabeth Audelia Hemsworth IV, or as Cleese likes to refer to as Miss Snot-Nosed Silver Spoon Puffy Pants. Gunnar Cleese does not hold Phoebe in high opinion in terms of personality. He doesn't like her too much, but he acknowledges just how much of a genius she really is. And she is actually from the heiress to the Hemsworth dynasty. And the Hemsworth family their origin dates back 500 years, and believe it or not, they've made several contributions to social and technological advances throughout the universe, including the Magnus line. For those of you who aren't familiar with Magnuses, those are the artificial intelligence creatures like Isaac and Marquis. So her family is what led to the creation of individuals like Isaac and Marquis, including all the calamities and dangers that they pose. So we can all blame Phoebe and her family lineage for all the tragedies that we're about to go through at the hands of Isaac and Marquis and other Magnuses, maybe sometime down the road in future DLC updates. But she is also known to be an eccentric inventor, and she is very good at directing her sabers, you know, through they're cerebrally detected. She created tech of her own design that essentially allows her to control the 4 swords around her with mere thought alone, which Cleese claims he did at the age of 5, but whatever. And she also is apparently, you know, somewhat skilled at dancing. However, that's not actually true. Believe it or not, she actually got expelled from a dance academy. She decided to break into this place and steal a sword of theirs. You know, she broke in and just started terrorizing other, you know, tapestries and stuff like that. And she's just a kind of a monster. She's really arrogant, and she feels like she can do no wrong, and that she feels like she is so much better and special, and kind of like what you would expect from a prissy little princess character from a very well-off, high-class family. So she's definitely not what you would expect from, you know, someone of her stature, being arrogant and all that. But she's not what you would expect in terms of like a hero fighting for others. However, she does have a little bit of an unfortunate backstory in that as a child, her butler was Marquis. I mentioned this in Marquis' backstory, but Marquis was at one point her butler, and she was very arrogant. She was actually kind of harassing him and just insulting him and degrading him. And at one point, Marquis flipped his lid and started attacking her, and he didn't know what came over here. But it was funny as hell to listen to this, because Marquis snapped and almost killed Phoebe when she was really, really little. So it's kind of, I can understand why she doesn't like Marquis all that much and why Marquis doesn't like her. They definitely have they definitely don't like each other at all. It's rather obvious, but there's no denying that she is very good in terms of her technological advances that her and her family have brought forth, and that's why Galt decided to recruit her. And that's really all I've got about her backstory. So there's not much to it other than the fact that she's from nobility. Her family created the Magnuses, like Isaac and Marquis. She sucks at dancing. She got expelled from a dance academy. And Marquis almost tried to kill her when she was really little. So that's really all I've got to go over with her backstory and lore. Now we're going to go into her Helix loadout, and I'm going to show you the augments that I chose in her Helix loadout to help maximize her lethality on the battlefield.
Enemies have engaged with
Okay, so now let's go over to Phoebe's Helix loadout. First off, level 1, I've actually grown very fond of Preparation. Preparation is silencing your opponent for 3 seconds if you hit them with the last strike of Phoebe's primary melee combo. Not her true strike, but her regular melee combo, which can seem a little tedious considering it has to be the very last strike, but don't worry, we're definitely gonna make it so that won't be a problem. Aggressive Advance is still good. I'm not gonna lie, you can do with either one, and Aggressive Advance is great for retreats. However, with Phoebe, we don't really need to worry so much about our own movement speed. We're going to be focusing on something else with Phoebe, and I'll show you that once we get to the equipment loadout. But level 2, this time I do go with Phase Distortion. I'd rather, instead of speeding myself up, I definitely want to go with slowing my opponents down and that's for 6 seconds. That's a lot. That's a lot of slow that my opponents have to endure. And odds are, if they're by themselves and it's a one-on-one scenario with Phoebe, unless for some reason I'm at a severe disadvantage in terms of health, odds are they're going to lose this engagement. So Phase Distortion is very good. Now you can combo it with Aggressive Advance from level 1 and just make it so that you have a huge advantage in terms of speed on your opponents, but you don't really need Aggressive Advance in my opinion, but I like Phase Distortion for level 2. Now level 3, this one I prefer Sharpened Blades. I want Phoebe's melee attacks to do a little bit more damage, especially since early on in the game she's a little weak in terms of like killing adds or killing enemies. She can be just a little weak. You can definitely go with Shield Stabilizer or Crosscut, but I prefer Sharpened Blades just because I want to be able to finish my opponents off as quickly as possible. I don't want to focus so much on defense. With Phoebe, we're going all out offense with her. Now, for level 4, I go with Unintended Innovation. Blade Rush travels slower, but they explode on contact, damaging nearby enemies. This is actually very good because the explosion, even if the blades themselves don't make contact with your opponents, the explosion, the splash damage might, which can be a setup for Preparation. Enemies that are hit by Blade Rush, even if it's explosive damage, they will be marked, and it allows you to have the ability to silence them. So it's a good, Unintended Innovation can combo good right up here with Preparation. I forgot the name for a brief moment. Anyway. Next on to level 5, This one is really up to you. Pasado Soto, Pasado Soto, I probably botched that, I apologize, but that's not too bad. That's a good defensive thing if you want to. However, I like Reprise. Like I said, we are focusing all out on offense with Phoebe primarily. If we get the opportunity where we don't have to sacrifice a good amount of offense, then we can do defense, but I prefer Reprise because True Strike allows us to attack once, twice. So she'll do a side slash and then a stab forward, and you'll see me use it here in this gameplay. And it's great, especially if you're going for that one piece of lore that I mentioned earlier, where she has to do a bunch of damage with True Strike. That is a very difficult. It's time consuming. It's not hard to do, but it's very time consuming, and Reprise can help you fulfill that lore challenge even faster. Next up, level 6. I prefer Phase Gate version 2 just to reduce the cooldown. You can definitely go with Contingency Plan or Disruptor Blades. Either one is fine. Disruptor Blades, in my opinion, is the weakest, just because Blade Rush doesn't deal a whole lot of damage in and of itself. So you don't really. I would avoid that. So you can go with Contingency Plan or Phase Gate V2 version 2. Either one is perfectly fine. Now for this one, a lot of people might be drawn to Core Overload, but I prefer Flurry. Increase Phoebe's primary melee attack speed. This is noticeable in and of itself by itself. You'll notice Phoebe attacks even quicker, but once we get to the item loadout, it's blatantly apparent and obvious what we're trying to focus on with Phoebe. At least I am with my setup. And trust me, attack speed is very, very good, especially since we also got an increase in melee attack damage. Now we attack faster and we hit harder. So also very, very good. Now level 8. You can go with either one. I would prefer the phase stability. Increase the buffs imparted by Phase Gate by, the damage and the effects. It just does a little bit of damage, and that's really all it is. It's not all that much. You don't really need to worry about scientific method unless you're really, really good at ambushing opponents, but, you don't have to do it. But it does help if you're trying to fulfill that one lore challenge where you have to teleport a great distance with Phase Gate. Scientific method can help you fulfill that lore challenge even quicker as well. Now, for this one, I prefer Close Quarters Training. Increase Blade Rush damage when enemies are in close range. That is great considering how Phoebe is a melee character. So if Phoebe can literally teleport right up into their face, and if it's a big opponent like a Montana or Isaac or a Toby, you just teleport, if you Phase Gate right into them, and then you immediately hit them with Blade Rush, and you're just going to increase all the, so much damage. You're just going to hit them with all the Blade Rushes. They're going to explode, deal bonus damage, and so on and so forth. And then, not only that, but they are also marked, and you can silence them once you hit them with the last melee strike of your basic combo. It's just so good. I don't see any reason not to run it personally. Now, last up right here, I prefer Sword Storm. I prefer the area of effect radius to be increased, meaning we have a wider area of, and we can damage it more, and it allows Phoebe to escape with an increased movement speed. So, it's pretty good. It's great as a defensive maneuver for the art of combat. Now, the March of Signs continued Calamitous Cascade, we can definitely go with that in increased damage amplification if you feel like it, but I just prefer Sword Storm personally, just because it allows us to damage more enemies and we get to move around even quicker. I don't like Stormbringer. I think it's not all that fun. You can play some clever shenanigans with it, don't get me wrong, especially if you combo it with Phase Gate, but it's just the minus 50% damage is just too much for me personally to stomach. So I prefer either Sword Storm or Calamitous Cascade, and that's my overall Helix loadout for Phoebe. Next we're going to move into her item loadout. Okay, so now that we've got her items loaded up, this is the loadout right here. I go with the Eviscerating Ability Catalyst, increase 6.1% skill damage, and plus 4.88 attack speed. Then we go with the Pugilistic Alfred Warblade, 9.18 plus attack speed, and then an additional 5.25 attack speed for 3 seconds after taking health damage. Not too bad to trigger that second part. And then next up we've got the Eviscerating Endoskeletal Graft with 8.8 plus 8.81 attack damage, more melee damage, and then additional 5% attack speed. So if you notice, we are focusing all out on attack speed, and you've probably noticed by now at this point in the video that Phoebe is attacking extremely quickly. I'm not editing the video by speeding it up or anything. This is how Phoebe is really attacking. She is hitting my opponents hard and fast, and we are just playing to that strike. I know I tried focusing on just strictly attack damage, but I found that Phoebe's attacks aren't attacking as often, so when you miss, it can actually hurt your chances of winning that battle just a little bit more. Missing here when, is of very little consequence because we're attacking so damn much. We're just constantly stabbing at our opponents, And not only that, but it also, True Strike is also sped up by this. We're able to attack faster with our melee combos, and True Strike will also be quicker as well. It's just an endless flurry of stabs from Phoebe, and I strongly recommend that you guys give this a shot. You should not be disappointed. Just phase gate into your opponent and then just stab away and hit them with Blade Rush if you've got it, just to silence them so that they can't pull any of their skills to try and get away or stop you or whatnot. Phoebe can definitely hold her own with this setup and with this battle strategy and this Helix loadout that I've given you. She's definitely very capable of causing a lot of terror on the battlefield. And that's it for Phoebe's gear loadout. Now we're going to head back to the gameplay. So when it comes to my advice on how to play Phoebe in battle, I think that she's good in almost any game mode, whether it's capture, incursion, or meltdown. Regardless of whatever game mode, Phoebe can excel at because she is very good in one-on-one situations, and you can generate advantages really quickly with your increased attack speed. Phoebe is very good at holding her own. Do I put her on par with Galileo with this setup? Oh, I don't know. I mean, it's tough to say. I'd say that Galileo probably still has an edge over her, but Phoebe is no slouch with this setup. As you can tell, we are just constantly ripping into our opponents, and we're forcing our opponents to retreat. Even an enemy Galileo in a one-on-one situation does not want to attack me when I have half health, and that's because Phoebe is just so damn lethal. So you want to pick your spots. Phase gating is very crucial because it gives you that element of surprise, especially with the extra slow that we're hitting our opponents with. Very useful. And after you phase gate, if you feel like you're in a bad spot, immediately activate Blade Cascade and just hit your opponents hard, and then you can quickly rush to safety and just have fun with Phoebe. Phoebe is great. I initially struggled with her. I thought she was kind of subpar when I first picked her up, but once I decided to focus all out on attack speed, I found that Phoebe was much more enjoyable and fun to just tear it up with. And my opponents one-on-one, unless they have generated a huge advantage, Phoebe is capable of just shredding through opponents. She is not to be taken lightly on the battlefield. Anytime I see an opponent's Phoebe, I consider that just as dangerous as an opponent's Galileo. Because in the hands of the right player, Phoebe is deadly, insanely deadly. Now, one thing I'd like to point out is you may have noticed that earlier in the video I actually unlocked Phoebe's special epic armor, not epic armor, her legendary armor, where I unlocked these shoes, but I also unlocked one of Phoebe's skins, her Quantum Leap skin. It was actually kind of weird because you're going to notice that I'm not level 15 with Phoebe. I'm not even level 12. I didn't have everything unlocked with Phoebe at this point during, when I was playing with her. She was only level 9. But for some reason, the game awarded me the Quantum Leap skin that you get when you play Phoebe at level 15. The game decided to award it to me anyway after we won. So right here in the game, it decides, it's like, okay, right there's the Blade Dancer shoes. That's kind of cool. And I get the Kiss for Good Luck, the taunt, and the Master of Phoebe, which I was like, wait a second, why did I get Master of Phoebe in Quantum Leap? I'm clearly not level 15. What the hell happened? So the game kind of glitched in my favor, and it gave me Phoebe's Quantum Leap skin, her dark purple skin, without me even having to get to level 15. I don't have her level 15 taunt, the other one where she's like, using the swords as puppets, or even her level 14 skin. I don't have any of that, but as you can see right here at the gameplay, it's, maybe the game decided to reward me for doing so good. But anyway, that's all I've got to show for you for this gameplay. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like, favorite, subscribe, comment down below, follow me on Twitch and Twitter. Look forward to more videos, and I will see you guys all later. This is RadTech Shoes signing off.